Listen closely, my children, for this tale carries a truth as old as our ancestors' footprints. It is said in our land that a fruit plucked too early never sweetens, and a child never told no grows crooked like a tree without support. This is the story of Chidubem, the golden child whose mother's love became a chain instead of wings. In the small village of Umuamadi lived a couple well known to all the villagers. Adanma Okonkwo, a tall woman with bright eyes and graceful hands, was respected for her beautiful voice and generous heart. Her husband, Chukwudi Okonkwo, was a hard-working farmer who owned 3 hectares of fertile land where he grew yams, cassava, and maize. He was a quiet man who spoke little but was known for his honesty in business dealings at the local market. Each morning, Adanma would sing while grinding pepper on her stone mortar, her melodies carrying across the compound like birds in flight. For 8 long years after her marriage to Chukwudi, she prayed for a child. During harvest festivals, she would watch other women dance with babies strapped to their backs, their faces glowing with pride, while her own arms remained empty. The village women whispered behind their hands when she passed, and her mother-in-law, Mama Nkechi, made her life difficult with constant criticism. "A woman without a child is like a tree without fruit," Mama Nkechi would say loudly whenever Adanma was within earshot. Then one rainy season, the miracle happened. Adanma gave birth to a son. They named him Chidubem, which means God is guiding me. Everyone agreed he was the most beautiful baby they had ever seen. His skin glowed like polished wood, and his eyes were bright and curious. "This child is special," Adanma told everyone who came to see the baby. "He is my golden child, my blessing from God." From that day, Adanma treated Chidubem differently from how other mothers in the village treated their children. When he cried, she would drop whatever she was doing to comfort him. When he wanted something, she made sure he got it, no matter the cost. "You are spoiling that child," warned Chukwudi's sister, Ifeoma, when Chidubem was 3 years old and still being carried everywhere by his mother. "He is my miracle," Adanma would reply. "Nothing is too good for him." As Chidubem grew older, other children his age were learning to help with household chores. They fetched water, swept the compound, and helped prepare meals. But not Chidubem. Adanma did everything for him. "He needs to learn responsibility," Chukwudi would argue with his wife. "He has his whole life to work hard," Adanma would respond. "Let him enjoy being a child." By the time Chidubem was 10, the problems were becoming clear to everyone except Adanma. At school, he refused to listen to his teachers. When they tried to discipline him, he would shout, "My mother says I am special. You can't tell me what to do." Once, during a school competition, when another boy won first place in a math contest, Chidubem knocked over the trophy table, sending awards crashing to the floor. "I should have won," he had screamed, his face twisted with rage, while other students watched in shocked silence. Another time, during church service, he refused to sit with the other children, pushing an elderly woman aside to sit in the front row where only elders were permitted. "Move!" he had commanded loudly, embarrassing his father who had to drag him outside while the pastor was still preaching. The headmaster, Mr. Okafor, called Adanma and Chukwudi for a meeting. "Your son is very bright," he explained, "but he does not respect authority. He refuses to do his assignments and disrupts the class. Maybe the teachers are not teaching him properly," Adanma suggested, as Chidubem smiled beside her. Chukwudi looked embarrassed. "We will speak to him," he promised. But Adanma undermined every attempt her husband made to discipline their son. If Chukwudi took away Chidubem's privileges, Adanma would secretly restore them. If he scolded the boy, Adanma would comfort him afterward, saying, "Your father doesn't understand how special you are." When Chidubem turned 13, something changed. He began to see himself as the man of the house, even though his father was still there. He started giving orders to the house help, and even to Chukwudi's younger brothers when they visited. Who taught you to speak to your uncles like that? Chukwudi demanded one evening after Chidubem had rudely told his uncle Emeka to move from his seat. I can sit wherever I want in this house, Chidubem replied boldly. Mother says so. Chukwudi looked at his wife, who was busy serving their son an extra portion of meat. Adanma, we need to talk. That night, after Chidubem had gone to bed, Chukwudi confronted his wife. This cannot continue, he said firmly. Our son has no respect for anyone, not even me. You have made him believe he is above everyone else. He is special, Adanma insisted. Everyone is special in their own way, Chukwudi replied. But that doesn't mean they don't have to follow rules and show respect. As Chidubem entered his teen years, his behavior worsened. He refused to help with any chores and demanded expensive things that the family could barely afford. When denied, he would throw terrible tantrums, breaking things and shouting at his father. One day, Chidubem's teacher, Mrs. Ease, sent a note home. Chidubem had been caught stealing another student's lunch. He must be punished, Chukwudi declared after reading the note. Maybe he was just hungry, Adanma argued. He had his own lunch, Chukwudi pointed out. He took the other child's food because it looked better than his. Despite his father's anger, Chidubem showed no remorse. So what if I took it? He shrugged. I wanted it. That afternoon, Mama Nkechi came to visit. Though she had once been hard on Adanma, the old woman had grown wiser with age. My daughter, she said to Adanma, I must speak honestly with you. The way you raise Chidubem is not good for him. A child who is never told no will grow into a man who cannot accept disappointment. You never liked me, Adanma accused. Now you criticize my son. I am not criticizing him, the old woman replied patiently. I am concerned about him, and you. The turning point came during the village's annual harvest festival. Chidubem, now 15, was caught trying to take more than his share of the special festival meal prepared for the elders. This food is for the elders to eat first, explained Uncle Emeka, who was helping serve the food. You must wait your turn like everyone else. I don't have to wait, Chidubem said loudly. I'm Chidubem Okonkwo. My mother says I deserve the best of everything. When Uncle Emeka insisted, Chidubem pushed him. The old man fell and hit his head on a stone. Blood trickled down his forehead. The entire village fell silent. Even Adanma couldn't defend her son's actions this time. That evening, the village elders gathered at Chukwudi's compound. Chief Obiora, the oldest among them, spoke gravely. What happened today was shameful, he said. In our tradition, we respect our elders. We teach our children to honor those who came before them. Chidubem has shown that he has not learned these important lessons. Chukwudi hung his head in shame. I take responsibility. I should have been firmer with my son. Both parents shape a child, Chief Obiora replied, looking at Adanma. A tree cannot stand strong if it leans too much to one side. The elders decided that Chidubem would spend 6 months living with his uncle in a neighboring village, learning discipline and responsibility. He would work in the fields, attend school, and learn respect for others. Adanma cried when they took her son away, but deep down she knew it was necessary. That night, she had a dream. In it, she saw Chidubem as a grown man, alone and unhappy, unable to maintain friendships or keep a job because he couldn't get along with others. She woke up with tears in her eyes and a new understanding in her heart. 6 months later, Chidubem returned to the village. He was taller, stronger, and noticeably different in his behavior. His once soft hands now showed calluses from farm work. The proud tilt of his chin remained, but his eyes held a new humility. He greeted the elders respectfully, helped his father with farm work without being asked, and even apologized to Uncle Emeka for what he had done. During his first week home, the village experienced a terrible storm that destroyed several roofs. Without being told, Chidubem joined the young men gathering palm fronds for repairs. When a younger boy struggled with the heavy bundles, Chidubem, who once would have mocked the child's weakness, quietly took half the load onto his own shoulders. How did this change happen? Adanma asked her brother-in-law when he came to visit. She had just watched her son refuse an extra portion of meat, insisting it should go to his younger cousin instead. "I treated him like any other child in my home," Uncle Obinna explained, sipping palm wine from a calabash. "He had chores, rules, and consequences. At first, he was angry and difficult. He refused to eat for 2 days when I first made him fetch water before dawn. He threw the hoe down and stormed off when I showed him how to weed the yam mounds." Uncle Obinna chuckled, remembering. The turning point came during the 3rd week. A goat escaped and ate a neighbor's crops. The man came shouting, demanding payment. Chidubem admitted it was his fault. He had failed to secure the pen properly. Instead of making excuses, he offered to work in the man's farm every evening for a month to make amends. That's when I knew he was beginning to understand that the world doesn't revolve around him. That evening, Adanma sat with her son under the mango tree in their compound. "Are you angry with me for letting them send you away?" she asked. Chidubem thought for a moment before answering. "I was at first," he admitted. "But now I understand why it happened. Uncle Obinna taught me that being special doesn't mean I get to disrespect others or break rules. It means I have a responsibility to use my gifts wisely." Adanma's eyes filled with tears. "I thought I was being a good mother by giving you everything you wanted. I was wrong." "You are a good mother," Chidubem assured her. "You just loved me too much in the wrong way." From that day forward, things changed in the Okonkwo household. Adanma still loved her son deeply, but she learned to set boundaries and hold him accountable for his actions. Chukwudi found his voice as a father again, and Chidubem, though not perfect, was on the path to becoming a respectful and responsible young man. The village elders often use the story of Chidubem as a lesson for other parents. Love your children enough to say no. Love them enough to let them fall sometimes so they can learn to pick themselves up. For a child who never faces difficulty will never discover their own strength. And in time, Chidubem became known not as Adanma's spoiled son, but as a young man of good character who brought honor to his family's name. The end.